Welcome back and thank you for staying with me. Joining me this morning to analyze our top stories is Mr. Wisdom Kingsley. Mr. Wisdom Kingsley is an author and leadership coach. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome and thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
And also I have on the other hand Mr. Ademola Ibukun. Mr. Ademola Ibukun is a poet, a teacher and an educator. Mr. Ademola, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having me on this show this morning.
Thank you for being on the show this morning. We'll dive right into our first story for the day. And Governor Atlantic Town Hall meeting holds today, 25th January 2025 at Gate Place Hotel, Port Harcourt by 1 p.m. The Town Hall meeting is a program of Atlantic Television Network through which the network assembles delegates from various sectors to discuss trending critical issues. The meeting is expected to have as chairman Right Honorable O.K. Chinda, DSSRS, Minority Leader, House of Representatives at the National Assembly, Dr. Chinyere Igwe Esquire will deliver the keynote address. The agenda for today's town hall meeting is Nigeria's 2025 budget, presented by President Bola Tinubu to the National Assembly for consideration and passage into law as Appropriation Law 2025. The bill is tagged Budget for Restoration, Securing Peace and Rebuilding Prosperity. The highlights of the budget are expenditure of 49.7 trillion naira and projected revenue of 34.82 trillion naira, budget deficit of 14.88 trillion naira representing 3.89% of GDP, and debt servicing of 15.81 trillion naira. Key allocations include defense and security 4.91 trillion naira to enhance national security and protect borders. Infrastructure 4.06 trillion naira for energy, transport and public works to boost economic output. Investments in key projects like the Lagos, Calabar and Sokoto Badagry highways to drive economic growth. And on education 3.52 trillion naira including 826.90 billion naira for infrastructure development and support for the universal basic education UBEC and 9 new higher educational institutions. On health 2.48 trillion naira with 402 billion naira for infrastructure investment and 285 billion naira for the basic healthcare fund to strengthen primary healthcare systems. And in economic projections of the budget, inflation rate, we're looking at a reduction from 34.6% to 15% in 2025 with an exchange rate of 1,700 naira to 1,500 naira per US dollar. And crude oil production will increase to 2.06 million barrels per day, and on oil benchmark price $37 per barrel. In sectoral focus, we're looking at the 2025 budget has thematic areas of focus vis-a-vis, and based on the budget's thematic focus, ATN has assembled experts in these fields to discuss the proposal and shed light on whether the government will realize the objectives of the budget. With key speakers in debt and economic growth focus, we have Professor Silva Opwala Charles, the President's Garden City Premier Business School. And in security, we have a funding for military, paramilitary and police forces to ensure the nation and protect borders. Stanley also is a security expert and will do justice to that. And in agriculture, enhance support for farmers with funding and inputs to boost productivity and ensure food security. Dr. Nnameka Obereri, a development and economist and investment banker, will also do justice to that. And in human capital development, with the focus education and healthcare investment, Dr. Emmanuel Iruayenama, a management consultant, will x-ray on that. And in job creation, we're looking at public and private partnerships for infrastructure development. Mr. Pat Obiene will x-ray more into that. This meeting is a live streaming program of Atlantic Television Network on handles. Mr. Ademola Ibukun, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is a town hall meeting organized by the Atlantic Television Network, where we're looking into the 2025 budget. What's your take on such event?
I think it is story as usual with Nigeria's budget. When you look at the allocation to different sectors, they are not actually the way they are supposed to be. Because I think we have misplacement of priorities in our country. The budget are not actually placed, in my own personal opinion. For instance, take a look at the budget allocated to educational sector, to the infrastructure and social amenities sector, as well as poverty alleviating sector. When you look at the allocation and apportion to these sectors, you feel like they are not enough to actually take us to where the government claims they want to take us to. If they can give more than enough, allocations to these sectors, because in my own humble opinion, I believe that the bedrock of our country, besides the security aspect, you have the education aspect, you have the health sector, you have the infrastructure, you have the poverty alleviating. These four sectors have not been duly taken care of when it comes to Nigeria's budget, and 2025 budget is it's still the same story. There is no difference between what we have been experiencing in previous times. Can you hear me?
All right, so Mr. Wisdom Kingsley, so this town hall meeting, what's your take on it? Is it essential to the public? Because we are looking at we are trying to discuss if the government will be able to achieve its objectives from this budget, 2025 budget.
Yeah, I think it's a good move.
Okay.
All right, it's a good move. Like the other guest said, I think the government can do better. The government can do better, but from this, I think it's a good start since it's just January.
Okay.
Before the end of the year, I think they can do something. I think it's a good move.
Okay, so with the cadre or with the cadre of with the Cadillac of panelists we have, do you think it was a good choice getting to look for experts in this field to get to X-ray on this thing to the public?
Yes, it's a good thing because it's a good move because these people are prominent people in the society, and the public will be able to trust these people more, because if you bring somebody who is not too known, probably might not be really put their trust in these people. But since the people are people who are very prominent, I believe the public will have this trust in them that okay, what they're saying is genuine, and they will trust their words.
Do you also think these such events or such developments is a welcome idea in terms of relating the government policies to the people?
Yes, I think it's so that the people can have an idea of what's coming forward.
Okay.
The government should not just do things out of surprise. I think when there is something like this, the people, the public, will have an idea of what is coming next, all right, so that they will prepare their minds to this. Okay, maybe there's something that there might be a shift in the leader, so they will prepare their mind to that shift. So I think it's a welcome idea.
A budget is an economic tool that serves as a guideline to expenditure and investments. So as a business person, how do you think this budget will affect the ordinary Nigerians?
Well, it depends. It depends on the kind of person. But I think it will not really affect us, because I think everybody is a business person. We're a business person, and we do transactions every day. So these transactions will be taken to the government. I think from there the government can have its way in doing what they are planning on doing.
Okay, I'll get back to you. Mr. Ademola, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Mr.
I can hear you.
Okay, is the camera turned on?
Yes, my camera is on.
We are getting a signal that it's not turned on. We only see your name, not your face.
My camera is on. It's on.
It's on.
Yes, can you see my face?
Okay, why that is being rectified? You were saying something about the budget. Do you mind continuing on that?
What did you say?
You are saying something about you are giving a comment about the budget. Do you mind continuing on that? Where you stopped from?
Okay, I was saying that the situation of Nigeria budgets, especially as of January this year, is the same thing as what we have experienced in the past. When we look at the allocations given to each sectors, we feel like they can do more than they are doing at the moment, especially the allocation given to some particular set of sectors. I was saying, for instance, the educational sector, the poverty alleviating sector, the infrastructure sector, even the health sector. These four sectors are, besides the security sector, they are part of the bedrocks of Nigeria as a country. And I feel like the allocation that has been apportioned to these sections is what they can actually improve on. Of course, what they are planning to do is a good move, but I believe that the government can do better. The government can actually do better.
Okay,
this is our budget.
One sector that wasn't fully included was the SMEs, the small and medium scale enterprises. What's your take on that, considering the fact that we are looking at building or strengthening the economy, our economy as a country?
I think that's a good move. Good move. Like one of the guests said, the government has a record of the transactions that go on in this country. So from taking a look at the history of transaction in this country, they can actually find a means to actually make an improvement in what they have, in what they have proposed in the budget. So I think that they have proposed is a good move. And if it is well implemented, because let's take away the fact that Nigeria sometimes we fail to implement things properly. If this is well implemented, I think we are on a good course. Okay,
I asked the guest here, but I want to ask you. Do you think this budget has a role to play in the economic trajectory of the ordinary Nigerian?
Is the question for me?
Yes, it's for you, sir. Go on.
Okay. As always, the budget will always have a role to play in the economic situation of Nigeria, and like always, this year budget is of no difference. So I believe it will. But I think in opposition to the previous years, I think this year will do better. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
will do better.
So one more question before I move on to the next guest. The budget has been described as an over-ambitious budget, based on the fact that the inflation projection is to increase to 15%. What's your take on that? Do you believe, or do you believe the budget is really over-ambitious for us as a country?
I think that is just the government trying to sugarcoat us into believing that, you know, they have our best interests at heart. Of course, they may do, but the budget, in my humble opinion, is not ambitious enough. It's not ambitious enough, because when we look at the inflation in Nigeria today, the rate of things is actually like a quadruple of what we have in like the last 3 or 4 years. But regardless, it's still a good move. So I think, like, there is this popular saying that says that a thousand steps, I think, begins with a step. So starting from somewhere is a good move. So like I said earlier, with the right implementation, I think we can go somewhere with this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ademola. We'll move on to our next story. Federal government has approved 4 billion naira for conditional cash transfers to vulnerable households in Nigeria. During the launch of the 2025 Nigerian Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan at the United Nations House in Abuja on Thursday, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Nentawe Iwada, announced the interventions to address the country's deepening humanitarian crisis. This move is expected to support at least 10 million displaced households, primarily targeting the most vulnerable members of society. The cash transfer program is set to begin in February and continue through April, aiming to alleviate the immediate needs of families affected by displacement, particularly in the northeast. Additionally, the government has approved 2 billion naira in interest-free loans to farmers, specifically those in rural communities, to boost food production and self-sufficiency. We are prioritizing women, especially widows, pregnant women, and those with disabilities. The experiences of displaced women, particularly those facing pregnancy or disability, are especially challenging. We understand these vulnerabilities and we continue to support those who are most in need, he said. The president has approved the ministry's plan to begin paying conditional cash transfers to 10 million displaced households between February and April. This initiative aims to support those most in need, particularly vulnerable families affected by displacement, he added. Additionally, the government has allocated 2 billion naira to provide interest-free loans to farmers in rural communities. These loans will range from 300,000 to 400,000 per household, helping farmers access necessary resources and linking them to market opportunities. Furthermore, a 4 billion naira provision has been approved to support vulnerable groups through cash transfers, targeting families affected by natural disasters and other crises. These interventions are part of the government's broader strategy to alleviate poverty and provide relief to those in urgent need, the minister stated. He further emphasized the government's commitment to addressing the needs of internally displaced persons, returnees, and affected communities across Nigeria. The HNRP, he noted, was developed through extensive consultations and is designed to address the humanitarian challenges in Borno, Adamawa, Yobe, and other conflict-affected regions. We are combining the efforts of humanitarian developmental and peace-building platforms to ensure long-term resilience and sustainable solutions for these communities, he added. Mr. Wisdom, I would love to ask you, what's your take on this government approving 4 billion cash transfer for vulnerable households?
Yeah, I think it's a good move because especially the people who, the set of people who were mentioned, the disabled, the pregnant women, and the widows. I think these are people who really need this stuff. All right, so I think the government, the move that they're trying to take, will be beneficial to them, especially to them, because especially pregnant women, they cannot really do much when they're pregnant. All right, so the government giving them a kind of funding or helping hand will support them in one way or the other. Might not take all their needs, but in the basic ones, it will take care of them. It will help them.
Okay, Mr. Ademola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so what's your take on this move by the government to help vulnerable households, considering the economic state of the country currently?
I love it. This is an interesting move, an impressive move by the government. It will at least help reduce the rate of poverty, even if it's by 1%, and it will reduce the beggars that we have on the street. So it's a very nice move. It's a nice one.
Okay, do you also believe this will go a long way in helping these persons referred to, especially the internally displaced person? There's an adage that says, "Do not give me fish, but teach me how to fish." Do you think this will encourage them to become self-dependent or over-reliant on the government?
Definitely, definitely. It will help them to be self-dependent. I've seen disabled persons that that want to get something doing, because of the fact that there is no support, I mean financial support, to get themselves on track. They've resorted to begging. But this particular move is one that we help them to be self-reliant. It's a very nice move, and interesting and impressive move.
Okay, well, one more question. These, we've had such development before come up, and at the end of the day, probably it's achieved to an extent, or it fades away. What do you think should be done to ensure that this is not just an audio promise, but is effected?
I want to believe that before this initiative was brought into place, they should have gotten themselves a sustainable plan and a way of implementing this. Because the challenge we face when it comes to this kind of plan is if it will be effectively implemented, if these resources will get to the required persons. Because we know the situation of things in Nigeria and we know how our country runs. So the question begs that will these resources get the required persons, to the persons that actually need this particular thing? So I believe that if they can answer these questions, they are able to get it to the right people, because they've identified about 3 states where they want this these finances to go to. So if they can rightfully implement this, I believe there is no cause for alarm. I believe this will be, there will be an improvement to what they've done in previous years.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bidomain. Do you have any other thing to say on this topic for move to the next one?
Okay, I think what he said is right. Yeah, because like I was saying earlier, it's going to help these people forward. And then also he says something, right? In cases where the government help these people, where some of them, I want to say some of them will want to be totally dependent on the government. But I think the mature ones will take the money and do something better, right? So it's not really all of them that will depend on the government. Majority of them will want to do something that will help them, also help the society too.
Is there an amount of money you can give to somebody that will be sufficient?
No. So, I believe that human needs are too plenty.